Welcome to the Affirm Life Daily podcast. I'm your host, Cynthia Mitchell. As always, I invite you to visit the website, affirmlifedaily.com. Follow on social at Affirm Life Daily. And I am so pleased to announce my guest for tonight. Greetings and welcome, Auren.
Hi, how are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm wonderful. I am so happy I found you on TikTok because you are like absolutely amazing. So he describes himself as just a normal 37-year-old guy who lives in Norman, Oklahoma, who is a spiritual blue dot in a reddest of red states. And I love the simplicity of that statement. But honestly, you are anything but normal. You are, and that's a good thing. That's a very good thing in this day and age. Who wants to be normal? Because
Right,
I don't
yeah.
meet many people like you. I don't run across many people with your level of passion, your level of knowledge, and your ability to communicate your ideas so clearly and so powerfully. The energy just draws you in because you could tell it's coming from a very authentic place. And it's like natural laws is like in your bloodstream, like literally just in your bloodstream. So I
Mhm.
truly appreciate you joining me tonight. Is there anything you'd like to say to introduce yourself and also tell people where they can follow you?
Yeah, so I really only have the one social media profile. Of course, it's on TikTok with the name Auren Shael Kiri, just like you see it spelled on the screen. And yeah, I mean, really, just like you said, I'm a normal 37-year-old guy. I'll be 38 in March. I live in Norman, Oklahoma, where I've pretty much been raised here since 1997. Although I have had opportunities to live outside of the country, Germany, from like in the early 90s. Grew up in a military family. Stepdad was in the Air Force, um, and really just kind of had like your very normal childhood growing up. Suburban living, regular public school, just that very typical life. But recently, as I've discovered things like spirituality, astrology, theology that I've really started to kind of just love diving into, I've started to just realize that maybe I missed my calling. I fix cars. I'm a mechanic by trade, but I've really enjoyed getting on TikTok and spreading, my words and my truth. And I feel like I should have maybe taken a career in public speaking instead.
I would concur. I would agree with you there. I think that's definitely your calling. You have a way with it, like few that I've seen. So
Thank
tonight we're
you.
going to be discussing. Yes, you're very welcome. Why we are paying to live on this planet. One of your posts sparked that title for me. So we're going to really talk about this and get into it. So I am
Mhm.
going to get into our first question. What are our and are you're able to see these slides, right?
Yeah, I
Are
can
you
see
able
the
to see the
slides.
slide? Okay, okay. Just want to make
Mhm.
sure. Okay. What are our inherent rights and freedoms? So what are our God-given rights?
So I I say this all the time. Our God-given rights are the rights that we were absolutely imbued with from our creator are literally the freedom to have free shelter, free food, free healthcare if need be, a free education. I mean, the earth that we were literally gifted with, the earth that our creator made for us and placed us on, provides literally every single resource that we would ever need to survive without charging a single dollar or creating a single invoice or anything like that. Um, and so, really, I fully believe that our birthright was originally intended from our divine creator to be able to do nothing more than just live and play and create and exist together as one singular human race. Doesn't matter the color of the melanin in your skin. We are all one singular human race that was created to just coexist with all of each other on this beautiful Garden of Eden that was designed just for us, and it's absolutely perfect.
Yes, and I love how you describe, the earth as a garden of Eden. Can you kind of expand on that and what happened to our beautiful Garden of Eden?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, coming at it, especially from like a religious standpoint, right? Just about everybody, I think, understands and knows the story of the Garden of Eden, or at least the version that's been told in, like the Bible or the Torah. Um, I tend to think of the garden as a little bit bigger. I don't necessarily believe that it's limited to just one place out in the Middle East. And I think a lot of people would even argue that it might have existed somewhere else, but I tend to think really big in very large terms. And I fully believe that the entire earth is the Garden of Eden. Doesn't matter what continent you originate from or where you come from, it's the whole earth. I mean, the whole thing was given to all of humanity. So I don't necessarily think that there are, you know, tribes even that are like above one or another. I think it's literally the entire garden or the entire earth that was the garden. And at some point in history, I mean, it's hard to try to pick an exact day or time that it happened because none of us existed back then, and a lot of the information that we could even potentially try to look toward for those types of answers has disappeared, or it's hidden, or it's been destroyed. At some point in
Or
our history,
corrupted.
or corrupted, exactly. But I believe that at some point in our history, something, someone, or a group of someones, you know, it doesn't even necessarily have to be one person, decided that they wanted to own and control that garden. Um, the story of Cain and Abel, you know, comes to mind, and I've done a lot of research on even just that particular story. You know, traditionally, it's taught that Cain was jealous of Abel because, as the story goes, you know, God favored the types of offerings that Abel gave. I think Abel was a farmer, and so he gave fruits and vegetables and things like that. And I believe Cain's offerings were more of the hunting type nature. So he gave, you know, meat and sacrifices or offerings that were like, you know, meats and things like that. And according to the story, you know, as it's told, you know, Cain's offerings were, I guess, less accepted. And so, of course, this brought forth feelings within himself of like envy, jealousy, you know, because why is his brother's offerings accepted more openly and more lovingly? Um, and I think that that story has a bigger message to it. If you look at it from kind of like a zoomed out perspective, and if you apply those names and those characters as archetypes of people instead of like a specific singular human being, the message that you can draw from that essentially is that with regard to humanity, when the feelings of envy and jealousy and control are introduced to what could essentially be a symbiotic relationship, then that's when people start dying. Because obviously we know through the story that Cain kills Abel. Um, and if you look at that from a broader perspective, well, then yeah, you see we have this managerial class that apparently is either envious or jealous or has just decided that they have the God given right to control the resources that the earth literally gives us for free. And because of that, people die by the thousands and the millions every single day because we don't have free access to the things that we should have in the first place.
Yeah, they've taken control of our Eden for sure, and it's very unfortunate because, like you said, it's costing lives in droves. It's costing so much suffering in the world, and
Hmm.
it's important that too, like you were saying, you know, these parables in the Bible are trying to teach us lessons, and they are showing you grander archetypes of you know personas, and so we have to
Hmm.
be aware and heed these messages and embody what it's trying to teach us so that we can start to change things. Is That's really
Hmm.
important. There was another video that led me to this question that I saw. You had mentioned we live a subscription based life, and I really liked that video. Can you expand on what you mean by the fact that we live a subscription based life?
Absolutely. And I really love this question too. That word subscription, you could literally take that and apply it to just about every single part of the life that we live. Um, you know, we're taught that once we get to a certain age and we move out on our own, you know, we have to go out and we have to get the house. Well, that means a mortgage, or you have to rent. That's a subscription. And then when you get that house or that shelter, you know, then you have to start doing things like paying the utilities to be able to have access to, you know, heat in the summer or AC in the winter or water flowing into that house. Those bills, again, just transpose the word subscription right in there. That's another subscription. Um, Things like, you know, the plumbing and the central heat and air, and then even the luxuries that you get in your house. You know, if you choose to pay for cable TV, or if you choose to pay for your Netflix or your
Your
DoorDash to have food
Wi-Fi,
delivered to,
all that.
and the
Yeah.
Wi-Fi, all the everything is a subscription. When you register your car with the state, subscription. The insurance for the car, subscription. The payment on the car, subscription. Every single aspect of our life literally has been turned into a subscription, and it's only getting worse every single day. As a mechanic, I pay attention to things that are happening in the car world, and they're even talking about turning subscription uh, services onto, like, some of these cars have Wi-Fi built into them now. But I've even heard, rumors that they're going to talk about even just the access to be able to start your car might even be a subscription. Um, so yeah, I mean, our whole life is essentially pay to play. In the gamer world, that's a common term. Again, it's a subscription to be able to access online services with the game or access certain features within the game. You have to pay a subscription fee. So we're literally charged and nickeled and dimed for every part of our life. When you go to the grocery store, you pay a subscription to the grocery store to be able to even walk out with those food items legally. Otherwise, what? You get reported for theft, and then you're arrested and you're sent to jail if you don't pay. Again, that subscription.
Yeah, and it's like you said, it's for things where you really can't live without it. It's you know what I mean? So you can't
Right.
even remove yourself from this, even though you know it's unfair, you know it's immoral, you know the whole thing is a scam and a setup, but you can't remove yourself from it and still live, have the ability to even just function and live. And it's very frustrating. And I'm glad you mentioned the car thing because I've heard a lot about some of the plans that they're trying to implement as far as us not being able to even own cars anymore once they implement these 15-minute cities. You just
Hmm.
have to have a subscription to be able to either use a car or get picked up by one of the uh, automated cars where driverless cars that just, driving service. But you cannot own a car yourself. These are things that they're trying to remove from us as even a right to even own anything, really, is their goal, so that we're completely dependent on them for everything. So that's going to like exponentially make the subscription lifestyle like permanent and so much worse, because then if you step out of line even
Hmm.
slightly, they're going to just turn your entire life off overnight.
Oh,
It's
absolutely. Yeah, Klaus Schwab, specifically. I mean, he said it verbatim. He said, "You will own nothing,
nothing
and you
and
will be
be
happy."
happy. And it's
Yep.
crazy because when I mention these kind of things to a lot of people, they don't believe it. I said, but they're telling you directly. I'm not like, you can go watch this man say this. I'm like, they publish documents. They publish this information publicly. I'm like, anyone can go and view their documents. You can look at their website. You can look at the videos of them saying these things. This is their real life intention for us. So
Hmm.
you cannot believe it because it makes you feel so uncomfortable or scared inside, but that doesn't make it not be true. People have a confusion between something not being true and the fact that it makes them uncomfortable inside or makes them scared. So, oh, it can't be true. And that's, you can't live your life like that, because then you're no longer living in reality.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So, no, that was a really good explanation of that, with the subscription based lifestyle, and how we are really gotten stuck in that.
Hmm.
So, so why are we paying for natural resources that are provided by nature for free? How did they get us into this predicament? Give me your thoughts on that. I know that's a very loaded question, but give me your thoughts on that.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, the short answer really is literally somebody somewhere, or a group of somebodies somewhere, had literally made the decision, because life is all about choices, right? Well, this, whoever it was, at whatever point in human history that it was, literally had to had made the choice that they had the right to own everything and control resources. You hear a lot of people make the statement that, humans are too animalistic, and that, oh, we can't control ourselves. So, well, then sure, we must have a leader. We have to have somebody who basically controls everything and distributes everything, and there has to be some type of system and order in place, because otherwise, if we were just left to our own free devices, well, we would take too much. um, or we wouldn't be able to trust each other to be able to take care of each other. So that's kind of the short version. And I think one example that I can give as far as like how this happened, if we go back to, let's say, the time before 1910 to 1913, right, especially here in the United States, prior to that time, the United States did not have an income tax. Uh, the country was vastly funded and kept afloat by tariffs. It was international commerce is what funded the country. But then in the time of 1910 to 1913, a lot of people will know the story. You go back to Jekyll Island, which is an island just off the coast of Georgia, where all of those bankers, including J.P. Morgan, basically met in secret to start discussing the structure and the idea that would become the Federal Reserve and the IRS, which was actually put into place that exact same year. Well, at the time, obviously, if you think about it, you would have had adults alive back then who were already used to, living and existing without an income tax. And that's a problem for a group that is trying to institute this new system and make that a normal part of life. Well, what's the solution? So in those times, we have photo evidence of things that used to exist, like these world fairs that were held back in the 1800s.
Yes.
Um, they had
It
these
was
art.
amazing some of the technology that was already in existence then.
Exactly,
Amazing.
right. Where did it go? Well, okay, so what do you do with the people that are alive during this time? How do we convince a society that we're going to transition an economy from a tariff based system without an income tax? And how do we convince them that now we're going to start taxing them from the inside? Now we're going to fund our country internally. And, the worker bees are now going to essentially keep the economy and the country afloat. That doesn't work. I know if I had been alive during the time and you had walked up to me and said, okay, now all of a sudden we're going to start taking a percentage of your income and we're going to use that money to fund the things that you need. I'm sorry, what? That doesn't set
Right.
well. That doesn't
Beg your
set well
pardon?
with me.
Right.
So, historically speaking, what you find in that time, well, you had the mud floods and you had the great fires, like the Great Fire of San Francisco. So essentially, I believe what they had done in that time is they were targeting the adult part of the population back then. And they were trying to essentially eliminate the adult population that had already grown up in the time before. And what they wanted to do essentially is they wanted to get rid of those adults so that they could then take the children, especially the ones who were too young to have long term memory developed, and they displaced those children and redistributed them. If you do the research into this, you find the orphan trains, and I think what they
The
did
real
was
life
they,
Cabbage Patch Kids.
yes,
If you
exactly,
looked
the
into
Cabbage
that,
Patch Kids,
that was like, yeah, it's crazy. But
right?
go on, yes.
Yeah, so you take the children who again have are too young to have any recollection, and you redistribute them to families who are basically supporters or proponents of this new system. But when you take kids who are that young and you start to raise them with this new alternative reality, they've forgotten or never even had the ability to remember the system that existed before. And these children are now raised in a society that's completely different. So, what happens when they become adults? Well, this is how it was. This is how it's always been. And you have essentially erased an entire history that existed before this generation existed. And now they no longer know what they don't know. And that's how you solve the problem of transitioning from what existed before to what existed then. And now here we are, just a short, what, 3 generations later, maybe 4 generations later. And now you have people who are arguing, well, yeah, that's the way it always was. Well, of course you think that because that's all you know. That's how you were raised. But that's a lie because it was not that way before. And if people back then could speak, they would tell you that much.
Yep, and there was a lot of people that got had to get rid of to even get the Federal Reserve, um, in place.
Mm
So yeah,
hmm. Mm
they made sure that any opposition was taken care of in a very permanent way.
hmm. Mm
And I talked to a lot of people about, what happened, just the unfortunate incident of the Titanic, and who, just happened to be on that Titanic, and who happened to all of a sudden cancel their plans and wasn't on the Titanic anymore. So, there's
Exactly.
a lot. Yeah, there's a lot. Do you want to talk a little bit about the Federal Reserve and how that came into play and how important that is for them to be able to do what they're doing right now?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm not like a professional historian, so
No, no,
I'll kind of
no. Yeah.
use some generalities. But from the research that I've done, essentially, kind of the puzzle that I've put together on this is that at some point in between when the 14th Amendment was introduced into the Constitution up to about that year of 1910 to 1913, so that's a pretty large window. But at some point within that window, the country of the United States had actually gone bankrupt, and that's a historical fact. That can be researched and that can be looked up. It's documented. So these bankers, and the names that were part of this banker group included, people like J.P. Morgan, who of course is J.P. Morgan Chase. Um, these bankers had essentially met and they had come up with a plan to do what our government is famous for doing, and they would came up with an idea for a bailout. Right, they were going to bail out the country. Well, at that time there were also opponents of this idea of the creation of the Federal Reserve, and I think it's no small coincidence that the opponents of all of this were also aboard the Titanic. um, and it's been historically documented that J.P. Morgan Chase, he either owned the ship or he insured the ship. I'm a little unsure as to which one it was, but either way, he had a financial interest in this. And he did at one point have a ticket to board the ship, but just before that ship set sail, of course, what happens, not coincidentally, of course, he cancels it and he never gets aboard the boat. We all know how the story progresses later. It strikes the iceberg, and sinks into the ocean. Of course, then what happens? The opponents of the Federal Reserve and the IRS are, unfortunately, they're unalived at that time. So that's how you eliminate the competition, especially back in those days. Um, Now, when the Federal Reserve and the IRS were created, the United States went through a transformation where it went from being a country of humans and nationals into a corporation, and now your citizens become assets, and assets need to be tracked. So how do we track them? Well, we came up with the birth certificate and social security card system, and then you have, of course, all the different tentacles that arise from that. You have your social security system, and you have things that like trickle down economics, that all were subsequent things that happened that followed when you take um, a group of citizens that are literally alive men and women whom are not assets, and you transform them into basically livestock. And now we
Yeah.
have a society of
Where
people that
corporation
essentially,
and the human is considered dead at sea.
right, right. Yeah, they turned us into
Crazy.
livestock, and they've produced us or turned us into slaves that produce for the bankers that essentially bought the corporation of the United States. And now we're the collateral.
Yeah. Yeah. It's insanity. And I was
Hmm.
watching your video today about well, no, yeah, it was, I think it was today, where you were comparing, because I do, and I was loving it because I do this comparison all the time. The
Hmm.
government operates just like the mafia. I mean, like, just like the mafia. It's like, if you
Hmm.
watch a gangster movie and then you look at the government, please somebody tell me the difference. It's just on a much grander scale, and they
Hmm.
have much better enforcers.
Yes.
Yeah, so can you talk a little bit about what you were saying in that video about how the government operates like the mafia?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I think, what people are realizing nowadays too, especially thanks to the advent of the internet and how quickly information can spread and how much access we have to it now. A lot of people are learning and understanding that it's not just our government either, it's every single government in existence. Um, Nations and borders are not real. And all of these governments that exist over any country, it doesn't matter if it's us or Venezuela or Colombia or Canada, Russia, China, every single government on the planet is its own mafia, its own family. And The system that keeps them afloat is a complete and separate system from the ones that, like us here in the United States, are used to. You see, the economy that people like you and I operate on is not even connected to the economy that the governments operate on. They are a completely separate black market system. Our dollars that you and I earn and spend on a daily basis, they don't leave our little ecosystem here. They don't go anywhere. So when they tell you on the news that they're sending billions of taxpayer dollars over to another country, that's a lie. Our government prints money at will and it borrows against itself. That's one thing people don't understand about how the Federal Reserve even works. It prints money when it needs it, and it borrows against itself, and then it charges interest on those loans. And you can
Now that
trace
it's
that
digitized,
system.
it's literally just them entering zeros and ones in a computer now. And now, oh, now there's money.
Oh, absolutely. And of course,
Yeah.
with that, it's now programmable. So if you say the wrong thing, or you have wrong think or wrong speak, whoops, now all they got to do is hit a button, and guess what? Your bank account now has no dollars in it. Nobody thinks about that. But yeah, so every single government is its own mafia, and that separate black market economy, the one that they operate on, the managerial class, the thing that keeps that afloat is something called compromat, which is a Russian term. And basically, it entails everything from blackmail to black market economies, which is where you get your international trafficking rings. Look at what we're dealing with, Epstein and the Epstein files. It's totally and separate. And what's interesting about what they're trying to do, this one world order that they're trying to create, it's a transition. They literally are trying to get us away from having either presidents or prime ministers or whatever the term is that you want to call them. It's all one and the same. They're trying to transition us away from that and turn the global managerial class into literally a boardroom of people who are professionals on the operations of everyday life, including our food, including our resources, including our education. But the thing about that is that transitions, they require loyalty. Well, how do you get loyalty in the managerial class? Well, leverage. Leverage is the key thing that keeps that economy and that entire mafia system afloat and operational. Well, how do you get leverage? Well, you get leverage from blackmail. And look at what we're seeing now. All of these things that are coming out into the open, that has been the blackmail ring that has been in operation, apparently now, not only for decades, but possibly for centuries. It's been going
Oh
on for
yeah,
that
I'm
long.
sure. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These
It's
mafia
it's
families are just
it's
fighting with each other.
yeah, yeah, and I just love the way you describe it because it's that, and that's how, the criminal mafia operates. And what I'm trying to get people to
Hmm.
see, like, just because they gave themselves the title of government does not mean this is not criminal activity. I'm
Right.
like, you can label yourself, you can dress really nice, you can be very well spoken, you can smile. That doesn't mean you're not involved in criminal activity every day of your life,
Hmm. Yeah.
you know? And
The
people,
fun
yeah,
phrase I have for that is you could put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig.
exactly, exactly, exactly.
Mhm.
That's really hard a lot of times to get people to understand because they're buying into these personas. And like you said, we've been raised up in these systems thinking that government is just absolutely essential for us to live. And we've been so demoralized, no one believes in the that there's any natural goodness to humanity. They just think, well,
Mhm.
everybody's just going to tear each other apart and da 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 da. And it's like, you know look at what we're in now.
Mhm.
Can it get much worse? You know what I mean? I think it's time we start believing in ourselves at least a little bit. And yeah, we do have to educate ourselves on morality and right and wrong because we've been so miseducated about what right and wrong is. People confuse morality with moral relativism, which is a totally different thing. Morality has
Mhm.
nothing to do with your personal preferences. It just has to do with you not harming other people and still being able to take care of yourself and without harming anyone else. That's moral behavior, not harming other people unless it's in self-defense. And yeah, it's wild because it's very hard to get people to see that clearly. They're very hardwired now to believe that we have to have government, we have to have authority, we have to have hierarchy,
Oh,
no matter what,
absolutely.
at any cost. And it's
Hmm.
costing us more and more and more. So what are your thoughts on these 15-minute cities they're trying to institute? Because I know they're already doing it in some countries. They're already starting them.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just look at
Yep.
the most congested cities that we have, Los Angeles, London, all of these cities where, and I don't really know too much about it because I haven't delved too deep into the 15-minute cities, but basically from what I do know is that, essentially they're trying to turn, especially the most uh, densely populated cities into, just like you said, 15-minute cities. And that's literal, where you have literally these
Yes.
15-minute windows where you're allowed to go here, go there, get what you need, do what you need to do. But then you're going to be very strictly monitored in every single way. And that's not that doesn't mean only monetarily, but you're going to be monitored literally visually, because I mean, how many cameras are in these cities, and they will track you everywhere you go. They don't even necessarily need to rely on only the cameras. Your phone in your pocket is a tracking device, and even when it's turned off, it is still trackable. And that's how they're going to do it. And basically,
Yep.
they're going to, like you had mentioned earlier with the car thing, in the big cities in LA. When I was there, they had the Waymo cars. And you were
That.
talking about how, yeah, you can't even buy a car anymore. So essentially, what they want with these
Really?
15-minute cities, huh? Mhm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, in Los Angeles, they have like the Waymo is what it is, and they've got these Jaguar SUVs that have these cameras and sensors all around the car. And when you get in the car, it drives itself. You just tell it where you want to go through the app, I'm sure, and the car does what it does. But I don't know if you saw recently, what happened in, I think it was San Francisco or San Diego, one of the two, where they had that blackout and every single Waymo in the city just stopped dead in its tracks
I
and caused
did.
traffic.
Okay. Yeah, I remember seeing a post about that, but I didn't like look into it. So that's what happened.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, they had a power outage, which I'm sure was probably on purpose. And all the cars stopped, and they were basically doing a test to try to, well, what happens if all these cars stop? What do we do? Well, you're stuck. But yeah, these 15-minute cities are basically what they want for humanity. Is basically from the time that you wake up in the morning, they want to control your every move. So you'll be waking up in the morning, you'll get in your Waymo, the Waymo will drive you to work, you work your shift, you work your schedule, you get back in the Waymo and you go home, and it's every single day. It's every single, because I mean, they're turning us literally into slaves that produce. And what are we producing? We're producing their lifestyle. So they get to live on
Yep.
vacation every single day, and they get to consume. They don't have to go to work. They don't have to worry about the cost of healthcare or anything like that. Their life will be nothing but a nonstop party and a nonstop vacation. Meanwhile, we're down here doing things to create the products that they consume. Um, and it's gonna come in the form of everything, not just the transportation with the Waymo, but people are like, oh, universal basic income.
Yeah. They've been
that's
talking about
that's
that a lot.
literally gonna, yeah, that universal basic income is gonna be nothing more than a rollover cell phone plan. You remember those?
Yep. I do. I used to sell cell phones back then.
Yeah,
Yep. I do remember
yeah.
those.
Your
Yep.
minutes ain't gonna roll over. So the money that you get every 2 weeks or every month, whatever it is, you either better spend it or you just get refilled as a top off. You ain't gonna get any more. You won't be able to save anything. And it's all going to be
Yeah.
tied to
Yeah.
the
That's
chip that either
over.
gets put in. Yep, you have the chip in your hand, it's programmable, it's digital. And again, if you get accused of saying the wrong thing on social media, or if you buy too much meat, then all they have to do is stroke the key. And it's all going to be tied into your either your digital ID or your digital passport. And every single aspect of your life will be tracked. And if you don't operate according to their rules, you're cut off. That's what those 15 minutes
Yep.
these are going to look like.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly what it's going to look like. And yeah,
Hmm.
and that tie into your social credit score and things like that. Like you said,
Hmm.
that's going to mean real consequences. Like, okay, now I can't get any groceries because I came on social media and said the wrong thing, or I decided to try to, go to a protest, or just anything. Any stepping out of line is going to cost you big. Like, well, now maybe I don't, I can't pay my rent, or I can't eat, or I can't have heat, or I can, can't. have access to go to the grocery store. These are real things that are already happening in China. You know what I mean? So it's like people
Exactly.
gotta like recognize that they're not joking around. They're not effing around. They when they say these things about you're gonna own nothing and you're still gonna be happy, they mean it. They're not playing with you. They're not just saying something to be funny. They really mean that this is what they're trying to do. So it's
Hmm.
so important that people take this more seriously and understand like the it's huge that everyone resists this digital ID thing because once that is fully implemented, it's going to make it dramatically harder to for us to start a new paradigm,
Hmm.
for us to build what we want to build, for us to live how we want to live. Because I'm not trying to fight them. I'm not trying to protest. I'm not. We need to build the new now. I don't want anything to do with that system. That system needs to just be starved to death so it can crumble and fall.
Hmm.
Starve it out. But as long as people are willing to participate and they live a, every decision they make is based in fear, if no one has the courage to stand up and say the type of things that you're saying, we're not going to get very far. It takes a lot of
Yep.
courage to do what you do on a daily basis and talk about the things that you talk about. It takes a lot of courage, and we just need more people with that level of courage. There's a big shortage.
Oh, I
Big
appreciate
shortage.
that. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and a lot of it
No,
too.
I appreciate you.
I think a lot of it too is also people we've been trained to think too small, And I mean, if you look at again everything we're taught from childhood, when you go to school, don't ask the wrong questions, and don't cause a problem. You gotta stay humble and make sure that you pay attention, get the good grades. Or in religion, don't ask the wrong questions, because again, you're small and you're not worthy unless you follow the rules and you ask for forgiveness. You do it's every aspect where people have been trained to think that we're not as powerful as we are and that we have to rely on a corporate feeding tube because that's what we've got now. You know, there's a reason that people were driven from tribal lands and into cities, and the farmlands are now what occupy those tribal lands. And you literally have the system of okay, so food goes from the farm to the truck to the store, and you have to go to the store and you have to exchange the money for the food. It's a corporate feeding tube. And thanks to that, and thanks to how long that system has existed, we now have an entire society who can't do even something as simple as growing a tomato. And even if we could, we're limited to the types of seeds that we can get. Just ask any farmer. They have to buy new seeds every single year. And so, because of that, everyone is absolutely terrified. It boils down to that one word fear. That is so powerful. And that has what got people so gridlocked in this system. It has even stunted their imagination. You and I were talking about that a little bit earlier. Nobody can even imagine a world that is free because we've been so trained to think that we have to outsource our care from our food to our education to our healthcare to literally everything to a government that seems to think that they have all the right ideas for everyone. No, let's bring back the tribal volunteer mentality that used to exist before the white man got here, even in this country. Because I'm telling you, there were people who were here before and they were doing it just fine. The Native Americans can tell you that. They didn't have money at all.
Right.
They,
Right. You have the actual resource, you have the thing. Why do you need money if I have the thing? Like,
yeah, and they took care of each other because it's the human thing to do. I don't need paper
yes.
for your bread. I don't need paper for the sweater. Let's just trade. I'll bake the bread, you make the clothes, and guess what? Everybody eats, everybody's warm. Come on now. It's not that hard.
Yeah, it's really not. And like you said, it comes down so much to imagination because people can't even imagine living like that.
Hmm.
It's just been sucked out of them. Like people's connection to their soul, connection to their spirit, connection to source, recognizing their power, recognizing their divinity. If you don't recognize that, you're not going to feel empowered. You're not going to feel like you can take care of yourself and take care of your family and take care of your community voluntarily because you've lost your connection to source. You've lost your connection to your own spirit. But once you start to get that connection back, you realize I'm powerful as hell. Like I'm super powerful. I'm
Right.
I'm a manifester. I'm a creator. We're already the ones that's doing all the work. The government officials, they don't build the roads. They don't build anything. They don't build the houses. They don't do any of those things. They don't grow the food. They don't do
Exactly.
we're all we don't they don't make the clothes. We're already doing all these things. We're just stuck in a system where we have to do it as a slave rather than as a free voluntary community and people. And I really like the video that you did where you talked about how we've paved over all of our food.
Yep.
And that's yeah.
Yep. There's
So
a famous
yeah.
line in a song that says the same thing. We paved over paradise and built and put up a parking lot.
Yeah, yeah, and
Hmm.
it's sad because, like you said, and all of our food is being shipped, from here and there. We're shipping food across the world, and other people are shipping
Hmm.
food, back to when it could all just be grown here locally. And now you have much fresher food, much healthier food without all these pesticides and not being genetically modified and not trying to put vaccines in it and all of these things. But it takes us to wake up more people because these are things we have to do as a collective.
Hmm.
I can't do
Absolutely.
everything. I can't build a house, grow the food, make it. We have to do it as communities.
I
As
love that you made
communities.
that point. Oh God, I love that you made that point. Yes, you're so right. And kind of a couple of things to kind of touch up on that because everybody argues, well, what do we do? How do we fix it? How do we, again, imagination. So for the people who argue, well, what did it cost to pave those roads, or what did it cost to build the system that brings the water to your house, or whatever? I think if people really took a step back and understood how money actually works in the first place, like, okay, money's the compensation for the work, for the labor, right? Let's just look at it from how it realistically is. Okay, so you put in the labor to build the road, and the road paver got the paycheck, right? Well, that paycheck went right back into the government's pocket in the form of rent and mortgage and groceries and utilities and all that. So, guess what? You basically just worked for free. You might have had a little extra to put into savings, but it technically did not cost anything for you to pave the road. You still did it, it still got made. You didn't have to bring the money and the paper into it. Or for the people who
Exactly.
argue, well, how do we grow food in like the Arctic type of environments? Greenhouse. We've already got the technology to build these structures where you have indoor environmentally controlled systems. So all you have to do is just come together to build that infrastructure. And again, it can be built without any money. We are all born with different skills and passions, and you're going to still have these engineers that want to put things together and make it happen.
Yes.
Just like you're going to have the person who wants to write music or write a play or make a movie or play sports or whatever. We are all born with these different unique talents, and that's what makes that volunteer society work. you know you do the thing that you're passionate about and create what you create, while I do the thing that I care about and create what I create, and then we just trade with each other.
Yes, we share it as a community. Absolutely.
So simple.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is. It
Hmm.
really is. So, yeah, I'm really glad that you brought up those points because it's at least plants a seed in some people's minds. Because, like I said, that video, I really love that video you talked about with the food because you think about that, and even when you go to other countries where you'll see like fruit trees growing all around and everything, and you don't see that anywhere in this country. Like you should be able to just walk down
Right.
the street and eat. Why not? That makes no sense. They purposely only have male trees just so that they make sure that we can not not have any food to eat for free
Yeah.
because they want everyone to be a slave to this system. And
Hmm.
even there's so many rules now, even they're trying to make it so that you can't even have your own garden at home. I mean, I got a freaking fine from my HOA for planting a freaking tr- fruit tree in my yard, my own yard. $500 fine.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's literal insanity. I feel like I'm in a whole in a like an insane asylum. you know because
Yeah.
nothing we're doing, how we're living makes no logical sense, but yet we keep all doing it.
Right.
And
We
like I
still
told you,
participate.
yeah, we still keep participating. And so we've got to get to a point where it's like when is enough going to be enough? When is enough going to
Hmm.
be enough? And we're all just like, we're done participating in this. It's time that we start building something new. So I'm hopeful, because there does seem to be more and more people awakening, but I am hopeful that, we are getting closer to being there. So I want
Hmm.
to ask you that question. How do we overcome this current predicament? What are some things that we can do to try to change things, to build the world
Ah,
that we want to see?
I love this one too. And I think kind of at the foundation of it, at the core, we really have got to unlearn. You used this word earlier, and I love this word. We have got to unlearn literally everything that we have been taught to believe in modern society. Um, just to touch on, like what you had talked about with the fruit trees. Why is it that when you walk out of your house, you are not living in a literal rainforest where you could pick from fruit trees and berry bushes and literally have your food just right as you walk out the door? Um, well, I mean, what did they do in the cities? They had city ordinances that basically eliminated that as a possibility because they claimed that, oh, the fruit rot that falls to the ground. How do you maintain that? How do you keep it clean? I think people have been spoiled by too many of our creature comforts that we have, and we've basically been turned into a society of bougie people who are afraid to get a little dirt under our fingernails. I don't care about a sidewalk. It grows nothing. Or my front lawn with nothing but crabgrass in it. It grows nothing that I can eat. So, how do we overcome our current predicament? We have to unlearn everything we've been taught, and we literally have to bring back that tribal volunteer mentality and start reclaiming our own self-governance and our ability to make our own decisions and our own choices instead of outsourcing it to a central government. I don't even care if it's local. Local government
Right.
doesn't need to be a
Yeah.
thing either, unless you have like a
Nope.
tribe of like tribal elders and maybe a council like that. But that doesn't mean that they're above anybody else.
That's the
That's
key. The hierarchy has to go.
hierarchy
Yeah.
has got to stop. I mean, we're discovering anyways that our votes don't freaking matter. We know that both options are evil, which says a lot about
Yes.
our system as a whole because we're voting for the lesser of two evils every time.
Yeah.
Stupid, so
Yeah.
we need to unlearn all of that, and we need to start realizing again how powerful we truly are. And if we were given the opportunity to no longer be slaves to this 9 to 5, which is a waste of our time, and we could redirect all of that time and that energy to mutual cooperation, putting together our creative ideas, and then volunteering to manifest those ideas into reality, our ability to create and innovate would literally accelerate. Money and capitalism holds us back. It slows
Yeah,
us
it's
down.
shackles. It's like shackles on us, weights on us.
Right? Could you imagine a world where you don't have to wake up at 6 in the morning to go to your thankless job that you hate? And instead,
Yeah.
you got to get together with your group of friends and say, all right, what kind of ideas are we going to come up with today? And how are we going to make that happen? And the resources that you need to do all of it are free, they come from the
Yeah.
ground. Or you just go to whomever like mills the flour. If you're gonna like have a little bakery and bake your bread, then you come up with again mutual cooperation. Hey, I need this. Oh, okay, well, I need this. Go get this. I'll trade you for that. It's so simple, but it really gets back to the core of, yeah, we got to get away from this outsourced spoiled society. And I think people kind of get afraid too, because when I talk about this, they're like, oh, well, I like my central AC or I like my plumbing. I'm not talking about going back in time to mud huts and
Right.
whatnot.
Right.
We've already
Right.
got the infrastructure now. Just stop charging money for it.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that was very, very well said, because it's completely nonsensical, and then it also will allow us to bring back family, real family units, because right now,
Yes.
like,
Yes.
everybody's somewhere else. No one's together. The kid is at daycare or at school. Mom is at her job, dad is at his job. Everyone's separated. The whole family like gets maybe an hour or two together before you have to do a whole bunch of you have to do all your household chores because you were at work all day. So you have to do all your household chores. So you don't even have time for your own family. And so
Exactly.
it breaks down the family. Then there's no family connection, then there's no community connection. It just spirals outward, and then everything just
Hmm.
falls apart, and everybody is their own little island, and we have all this social isolation, which again just reinforces the same problems. It separates us from our self, from our spirit, from our divinity, because now
Hmm.
you're feeling isolated, you're feeling sad, you're feeling alone, you're feeling depressed, you're feeling all these things that separate you from the very best parts of you, you
Exactly.
know? So
Hmm.
yeah, it's yeah, it's got to change.
Oh, for
It's
sure.
got
That
to change.
that separation and that isolation, I think, is kind of like the number one common thread among people who want to see change and would love to be able to do something. But every single person in that mindset still has kind of that same secondary thought of, well, if I rise up, I'm just one person. And what can I affect as just one person? And the really messed up part about all of that is that we actually didn't do this to ourselves on purpose. It was designed that way. These people, this managerial class, they're not stupid. you know every decision that they made, from designing the school system the way that it is. It's a military system that pumps out nothing but obedient soldiers. And then what happened in the 80s, when the wage gap really started to do this, the whole K-shaped economy thing. Well, you transitioned from a society that was able to survive on one income, where maybe only dad had to go to work and mom could still stay home and at least homeschool the kids. Well, now, because of inflation and this economy, well, now mom's got to go to work too. And that was a twofold problem. Now, not only do we have two parents that get taxed, and so, oh, that's more money for the government. Now, also, the kids are being raised by the state because they're spending 8 hours a day in a public school instead of being raised at home with the family. So, every single decision that they've made has been to achieve exactly what you just mentioned, to break the person down to the individual, to the point such that now we're so afraid of even rising up because we don't even believe that our neighbor is going to stand next to us and help.
Yeah, you feel much more likely that they'll probably report you and turn you in for
Right?
what you're doing, because they have us policing each other. And
Hmm.
that really became super evident during COVID, how people were reporting, oh, they opened their business. Like, that's what you want to do right now, and like people are going through all this stuff and trying to just keep their businesses open and their doors open, and all you can find to do is go and report them. Like,
Hmm.
it's so sad. It's very sad, the mind state and the spiritual state of so many individuals. Like I said, they've just been people have just been so brainwashed and programmed and demoralized.
Hmm.
They don't they they're they don't feel like they can live without the system. They really don't feel like they can live without it. They don't want to live without it. There's many people that don't want to live without it. But like I was telling you earlier, I believe in full freedom. If you want to live in that system, you have every right to, but you can't make me live in it with you. That you don't have the right to do. Because, like you said, we're
Absolutely.
born free. We're born free, and I'm free, and I don't want nothing to do with none of this mess anymore. So, yeah, so it's like, yeah, at some point we all have to ask ourselves, what are you willing to live for, and what are you willing to die for?
Right.
Be-
Exactly. And
Yeah,
I mean, honestly, how long are we going to continue to allow ourselves to be afraid of taking accountability for ourselves? You know what I mean? Why
yes,
why is there an entire society of people that seems to believe that we need to outsource ourselves to a system that is supposed to take care of us but clearly doesn't? I mean, look at the state of things, you know.
does the
And
opposite.
right. Uh I think, and on that note, kind of like one of the most common arguments against that is like, oh, well, that means anarchy. That means anarchy, and anarchy means chaos. And that word has been so demonized. The technical definition of anarchy is just no rulers. It doesn't mean no rules, and it doesn't mean no morals. We still have our humanity, even if we did live in an anarchist society. The only difference is that we don't have a hierarchy of people above us who seem to think that they have the right to call the shots. All it means is we have to take responsibility for ourselves. And yeah, maybe we do have to be our brother's keeper, you know? Let's just, as an
Yeah,
example, you live in
absolutely.
a village and your neighbor wants to say, well, you know what? Maybe I don't want just one house in the village. Maybe I do want to start taking more. Well, guess what? Hold him accountable. You know,
Yeah.
give him a give
Yes.
him a choice. give them a choice and say, okay, we see where your mentality is going with this, and we've seen it, we've dealt with it before. So here's your options: either get yourself right, or if you do want to live this way, then find another
Gotta
village where
go.
that's going
Yeah,
to be
you gotta
okay.
go. Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
we can't be
Exactly.
afraid to do that, and we are.
Right. Right. We are. We are. We're very afraid to do that. Some of the things that I witness in this world, especially things that are happening to children, and everybody's just doing like this. Even things that are happening in people's own household to children, right under their nose, and they know abuse is going on, things like, and they just look away. They just look away. No,
Hmm.
no one feels like they're their brother's keeper, or they're the protector of children. That is our moral responsibility to each
Yes.
other, especially to those that are defenseless, like children and the elderly. That is your moral responsibility to protect them as an able-bodied adult. I truly, truly believe that.
Yes, I
And
agree.
we have got to start bringing, listening to our hearts and our intuition and our spirit, and letting that guide us, not everything just being so logical and so well, I just have to protect me and mine, and just protect what I have, and hold on to it for dear life. Because yeah, you might be able to hold on to some of your material things, but what did you give up for that? You gave up your morality.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You gave up your humanity. Is that
Hmm.
really worth having a bunch of stuff? Having a new nice car, is having a bigger house? Is that worth your morality? Is that worth your humanity? Is that worth your true care in this world? Absolutely not. It's not worth the trade-off.
Exactly. Exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself. That was beautiful.
So yeah, this has been a wonderful, wonderful conversation. Look, I'm tingling.
I don't want to
But yeah,
stop. Oh, this is great.
yeah, no, this is great, and that's why I started the Natural Law podcast, because like you said, so many
Hmm.
people think just because they think of anarchy as chaos, and that there's no rules, but there's rules to the universe. And that's what people need
Right.
to understand. There's natural law. There's just laws to the universe. And
Hmm.
once you start to understand those, and you respect them, and you honor them, and you embody them, we can get along just fine. We can get along just fine, as long as we're working in harmony with nature, and in harmony with each other, and in harmony with the universe,
Oh,
you know?
absolutely. And I mean, ironically enough, the people who argue against that are like, oh, well, we have to have somebody who calls the shots or maintains order. I'm sorry. We have how many governments that exist on this planet, and we have chaos now.
Now,
What do you mean
violence
anarchy is going to mean
everywhere
chaos? We have chaos right now.
right now. Chaos, violence, suffering, people, all these resources, people still starving to death, people having no shelter. Yeah, it's pretty chaotic, and it's pretty sad.
Right.
And so it's like, what they're making it seem like what we have now is so great, and it's not.
No, it's
And it's
absolutely
not.
terrible. And I
And
get frustrated with so many people who seem to think that we can vote our way out of this, because clearly that has worked before. I mean,
yeah,
once you understand that every 4 years, when we get presented with these two puppets who apparently are supposed to make everything better, you're still voting for puppets. They are already bought and paid for. They have been selected for the purpose of being exactly where they're at. The one side, is the more I guess I don't want to say the more evil side, but the one side is the side that's divisive, right? And then of
right.
course you have to have the other side that balances that out and gives you
The mom
hope.
and the dad,
Right,
the
the
strict
Republican, the
one,
Democrat.
the lovey one. Yeah, the mom
Right,
and the dad.
exactly. So you have this perfect system where every foot, and if you notice how elections have gone the last several times, it's been what? It flip-flops, right? We haven't really had a consistent, like, oh, it just stays red or it just stays blue. You have that constant flip flop. And that, in and of itself, should at least open people's eyes to just how stupid this is. Because regardless of who we voted for, red or blue, the system never got better,
And
no matter who you picked.
right. That's something that I point out to people all the time. I'm like, don't you see? It goes back and forth, and somehow, no matter who gets elected, no matter who's in
Mm.
charge, the only thing that gets better is the stuff for them.
Hmm.
Everything always gets worse for us, and it gets better for them, no matter who's in office. That's not telling you something. Pattern recognition is like the most key. indicator of intelligence is pattern recognition. If you don't see this pattern,
Hmm.
I don't even know what to tell you at this point because it's a clear as pattern. Like this is what's happening
Oh,
over.
absolutely.
It's clear as day.
Yeah,
So
we're at the point now with, again, with the internet and the fact that we have such access to the information that we've got now. I truly believe that anybody who refuses to acknowledge that pattern is being willfully ignorant. Like, you are
yes,
making a
amen.
purposeful choice. It is so in your face. If you
Right.
still choose not to acknowledge it, you are making a deliberate choice to ignore it. And that
Yes.
is that's borderline unforgivable, I think.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Hmm.
Willful ignorance is like one of the like most immoral acts that you can ever commit. Because it's one thing not
Hmm.
to know, but to know and then you just still act like you don't know and go along with this, and you see the destruction and harm and suffering this is causing. Yeah, it's pretty unforgivable. It is pretty unforgivable.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, we're gonna keep doing this great work out here, and we're gonna keep working and keep trying to turn this around. Like I said, I am hopeful. I remain hopeful at all
Hmm.
times because I know the power of the human spirit when we get in touch with our divinity and our true self. Oh, this was awesome. I really loved this conversation so
Me
much.
too.
And I
Oh,
just
this was so fun.
Yes, it was. And I just want to introduce the audience to the next upcoming podcast, which will be Thursday, January 22nd. We'll be talking about the power of sound healing with special guest Nicole Evans. So please tune in for that. And Oren, do you have any last words that you want to share with the audience before we close out? Because this has been a powerful discussion, and I am just like so grateful for you.
I just want to say that I'm so grateful for you for inviting me on here. This is only the second podcast that I've ever done in my life. And I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to put these ideas out there for people. Like you said, plant the seed, you know? And I really, really hope that people start to understand and to realize just how big they really are. We are such big spiritual beings, and they know that. And
They do.
they are so scared of
They're
it.
they're scared to death of that.
Yes. Yes. So if there's any takeaway that I hope people get out of this, it's just to remember how big you are and how special you really, really are. And so I hope that I hope I get the opportunity to do this again, because it's been so
Oh,
much
I would
fun. And
I would love to have you back again. Say less. I would love to have you back again. And please tell everyone again where they can find you.
yeah. So again, my only social media really is on TikTok. It is at Auren Shael Kiri 88. So anybody can find me on there. And I really only do the one TikTok because I do still, unfortunately, work a regular job to earn those fancy tickets so I can keep myself fed too. And I try to have a good work life balance too, because if you stay just focused on all of this negativity, it really does drive you insane. So, to everybody out there who is, feeling themselves negatively affected by this, please take a moment to at least step back and give yourself some self care and some self love too, because that's also so critically important. You have to maintain not just your physical health, but your mental health. These truths are heavy. They are so heavy. And I just want to let everybody know that I love you all so very much. And I just want to see everybody happy and free.
Yes, yes, that was perfect. That was the perfect ending. Thank you so
Mm.
much. And if you all enjoy this, please give a like. Your support is needed in this mission of spreading truth, freedom, and natural law. Visit the website Affirm Life Daily. I'll be posting this to the website as well, along with links so that you can check him out on TikTok. There's resources on the website. There's poetry. There's affirmations. All the previous podcasts. So definitely check it out. Please follow on social media at Affirm Life Daily. We are all in this together. So I need your support. Others in the movement need your support. Like, share, comment, all the things because we are the change that we're waiting for. Me, you, him, all of us. We're the change we're waiting for. So with that, infinite grace, love, and gratitude. Everyone have a wonderful, wonderful evening.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
again. Yes, thank you.
Mhm.